If you're over 50 and you've noticed your hair thinning, shedding more than it used to, losing its shine, or just not growing the way it once did, listen very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you may surprise you. Most people immediately blame genetics, they blame age, they blame hormones, and while those do play a role, there is something far more powerful happening every single day that most people completely overlook. Your food. More specifically, certain fruits that you've been told are healthy your entire life may actually be accelerating hair loss once you cross the age of 50. Now, before you panic, I'm not saying all fruit is bad, but here's the truth. No one tells you your body at 20 is not the same body at 50. Your digestion changes, your insulin response changes, your liver changes, your nutrient absorption changes, and your hair follicles, they become far more sensitive to inflammation, blood sugar spikes, and nutrient depletion. Hair is not essential for survival, so when the body is stressed, inflamed, or overloaded with sugar, hair is one of the first things it sacrifices. Let's talk about why this happens. As we age, our cells become less efficient at handling excess sugar. High sugar intake spikes insulin, increases inflammation, disrupts hormones, and depletes key minerals like zinc, magnesium, and biotin, nutrients your hair desperately needs to stay anchored and growing. Many fruits today are nothing like the fruits our grandparents ate. They've been hybridized to be bigger, sweeter, and loaded with fructose. And fructose, especially in excess, is incredibly damaging to hair health when you're over 50. When you cross the age of 50, your body does not respond to food the same way it did when you were younger. This is something most people don't want to hear, but it's the truth. Your metabolism slows down, your insulin sensitivity decreases, your digestive efficiency weakens, and your cells become far less tolerant of excess sugar. And this is where many people unknowingly begin sabotaging their hair by continuing to eat high sugar fruits as if nothing has changed. For decades, you've been told fruit is healthy. And at a basic level, that's true. But here's what no one explains clearly. Modern fruit is not the same fruit our ancestors ate. Today's fruits have been selectively bred to be larger, sweeter, and far higher in fructose. That sweetness comes at a cost, especially after the age of 50. Hair follicles are extremely sensitive structures. They rely on stable blood sugar, proper circulation, balanced hormones, and a steady supply of nutrients like zinc, iron, protein, and B vitamins. When blood sugar spikes repeatedly throughout the day, the body releases large amounts of insulin. Over time, this creates insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is one of the fastest ways to shut down healthy hair growth. High sugar fruits cause rapid glucose and fructose surges in the bloodstream. These surges trigger inflammation throughout the body, including the scalp. Inflammation constricts blood vessels, reducing the delivery of oxygen and nutrients to hair follicles. When follicles are undernourished, they shrink. And once follicles begin to shrink, hair becomes thinner, weaker, and more prone to falling out. Fructose is particularly damaging after 50 because it is processed almost entirely by the liver. When too much fructose enters the system, the liver becomes overloaded. A stressed liver cannot efficiently detoxify hormones or regulate inflammation. This leads to hormonal imbalances, including increased levels of dihydrotestosterone, commonly known as DHT. Elevated DHT is strongly linked to hair thinning in both men and women. Another major issue with high sugar fruit consumption is mineral depletion. Processing sugar requires magnesium, zinc, and chromium. Every time you spike blood sugar, your body uses up these minerals to restore balance. Zinc deficiency alone can dramatically accelerate hair loss. It weakens the hair shaft, shortens the growth phase of hair, and increases shedding. Many people over 50 are already borderline deficient, and excess fruit sugar pushes them over the edge. Then there's glycation, a process that becomes more aggressive with age. Glycation occurs when excess sugar binds to proteins and damages them. Hair is made of protein. When glycation damages collagen and keratin, hair loses elasticity, strength, and shine. The scalp also becomes stiffer, reducing blood flow even further. This is why hair can start to look dry, wiry, or lifeless, even if you're using expensive hair products. Let's also talk about insulin spikes in circulation. Healthy hair requires healthy microcirculation. The tiny blood vessels that feed the scalp, repeated blood sugar spikes damage these vessels over time. This reduces nutrient delivery and slows waste removal. Hair follicles essentially begin to suffocate. You may not feel it happening, but the results show up in the mirror. Many people notice increased shedding after eating sweet fruits daily and never connect the dots. They assume it's age, they assume it's genetics, but when sugar intake is reduced, inflammation drops, circulation improves, and hair shedding often slows dramatically within weeks. Another overlooked factor is gut health. High sugar fruits feed harmful gut bacteria and yeast. This creates gut inflammation and interferes with nutrient absorption. If your gut cannot absorb iron, amino acids, and vitamins efficiently, your hair will not grow no matter how healthy your diet looks on paper. After 50, gut integrity becomes even more fragile, making excessive sugar intake far more damaging than it was earlier in life. The problem isn't fruit in isolation. The problem is quantity, frequency, and metabolic tolerance. Eating multiple servings of high sugar fruit every day keeps insulin elevated, inflammation active, and hair follicles under constant stress. Hair is not essential for survival, so the body diverts resources away from it when under metabolic pressure. This is why some people say, I eat healthy, but my hair keeps thinning. They are unknowingly flooding their system with sugar from fruits, smoothies, juices, and dried fruit snacks, all while believing they're doing the right thing. Hair loss after 50 is often a warning sign, not a failure. It's the body signaling that something is out of balance. Stabilizing blood sugar is one of the most powerful steps you can take to protect your hair. When sugar intake is controlled, insulin levels normalize, inflammation decreases, circulation improves, and hair follicles receive the environment they need to function properly. This doesn't mean you should fear fruit. It means you must respect your body's limits. Smaller portions, less frequent intake, better choices. And always understanding that what worked at the 30th of May quietly harm you at 50. One of the most misunderstood reasons hair begins to thin after the age of 50 has nothing to do with shampoo, genetics, or even hormones alone. It has everything to do with inflammation and circulation. If your scalp is inflamed and your blood flow is compromised, your hair follicles are essentially being starved, and starvation, even at a microscopic level, always leads to weakness, shrinkage, and eventual loss. Hair follicles are living structures. They require a constant supply of oxygen, nutrients, and hormones delivered through healthy blood vessels. When inflammation becomes chronic, those vessels tighten, harden, and lose flexibility. This reduces blood flow to the scalp, limiting the delivery of what hair follicles need to stay alive and active. Over time, follicles enter a resting phase and stop producing healthy hair. Now here's where many people unknowingly make things worse. Certain fruits, especially high sugar ones, dramatically increase inflammation in aging bodies. Sugar is inflammatory, period. When you consume large amounts of fructose and glucose, the body responds with an inflammatory cascade designed to protect itself. After 50, this response becomes exaggerated and prolonged. Inflammation doesn't just happen in joints or arteries, it happens in the scalp. An inflamed scalp becomes tight, sensitive, itchy, and poorly nourished. Many people notice scalp tenderness or discomfort and assume it's a skin issue. In reality, it's a circulation issue driven by metabolic inflammation. High sugar intake also increases oxidative stress. This creates free radicals that damage the tiny blood vessels feeding your scalp. These microvessels are extremely delicate. Once damaged, they cannot efficiently deliver oxygen and nutrients. Without adequate oxygen, hair follicles weaken. Without nutrients, they cannot sustain growth. Another critical factor is insulin. When blood sugar spikes, insulin spikes follow. Chronically elevated insulin damages the inner lining of blood vessels known as the endothelium. This damage reduces nitric oxide production, which is essential for proper blood vessel dilation. When vessels cannot dilate, circulation suffers. Poor circulation equals poor hair growth. This is why people with blood sugar issues often experience hair thinning, not just on the scalp, but also in eyebrows, arms, and legs. It's a circulation problem, masquerading as an aging problem. Inflammation also triggers the release of inflammatory cytokines. These chemical messengers disrupt the normal hair growth cycle. Hair spends less time in the growth phase and more time in the shedding phase. Over time, hair density decreases and regrowth becomes slower and weaker. Many high-sugar foods also contain compounds that can aggravate gut inflammation. When the gut lining becomes irritated, inflammatory signals spread throughout the body. This systemic inflammation doesn't stay isolated, it affects the scalp as well. A healthy scalp requires a calm internal environment. Inflammation anywhere can impact hair everywhere. Let's talk about scalp tension. Chronic inflammation leads to fibrosis or hardening of tissue. This reduces scalp flexibility and compresses hair follicles. A tight scalp restricts blood flow and creates mechanical stress on follicles. You may notice your scalp feels tight or stiff when you move it. That's not normal. It's a sign of impaired circulation. Poor circulation also prevents waste products from being removed efficiently. Metabolic waste builds up around hair follicles, creating a toxic environment that further weakens them. Hair follicles need clean, oxygen-rich blood to thrive. When waste accumulates, follicles shut down to protect themselves. Many people attempt to fix this problem with topical treatments. Oils, serums, and massages can help temporarily, but they cannot override internal inflammation. True circulation improvement starts from within by stabilizing blood sugar and reducing inflammatory triggers. When sugar intake is reduced, inflammation levels drop, blood vessels relax, circulation improves, oxygen delivery increases, nutrients reach the scalp more effectively, hair follicles respond by strengthening their structure and extending their growth phase. This is why dietary changes often lead to noticeable improvements in hair texture and shedding before any new growth appears. Another overlooked factor is dehydration. High sugar intake increases fluid loss and dehydrates cells. Dehydrated blood becomes thicker, reducing circulation efficiency. Thicker blood moves more slowly through tiny scalp vessels, further compromising follicle nourishment. Proper hydration combined with lower sugar intake dramatically improves blood flow. Hair thinning after 50 is often reversible, not always completely, but significantly. When inflammation and circulation are addressed, the body has an incredible ability to heal when the right conditions are restored. Reduce sugar, calm inflammation, and improve circulation, and you give your hair the environment it needs to survive. Hair loss is rarely sudden. It's a slow, silent process driven by years of internal imbalance. When you understand that inflammation and circulation are at the core of the problem, you stop chasing products and start addressing the root cause. Healthy blood flow is the foundation of healthy hair. Without it, nothing else works. Control inflammation, protect your circulation, and your hair has a fighting chance to remain strong, dense, and resilient even after 50. When people talk about hair loss after 50, they almost never mention the two organs that quietly control the fate of your hair, the gut and the liver. Yet these two systems determine whether nutrients ever reach your scalp in the first place. You can eat the cleanest diet in the world, take supplements, and use the best products, but if your gut can't absorb nutrients and your liver can't regulate hormones and toxins, your hair will continue to thin. Let's start with the gut. The gut is where nutrients are absorbed, inflammation is regulated, and immune balance is maintained. As we age, stomach acid levels decline, digestive enzymes weaken, and the gut lining becomes more vulnerable. This means nutrient absorption naturally decreases after 50. When you layer high sugar fruit intake on top of this already weakened system, the damage accelerates. High sugar fruits feed harmful bacteria and yeast in the gut. This creates dysbiosis, an imbalance between good and bad microbes. When bad microbes dominate, they produce inflammatory byproducts that irritate the gut lining. Over time, this leads to increased intestinal permeability, often referred to as leaky gut. When the gut becomes leaky, inflammatory compounds enter the bloodstream and spread throughout the body, including the scalp. Systemic inflammation disrupts the hair growth cycle. Hair follicles receive signals to shift from growth to shedding as a protective response. The body is essentially saying, we are under stress. Hair is not a priority. At the same time, gut inflammation interferes with the absorption of critical hair-building nutrients. Protein, iron, zinc, biotin, and B vitamins all require a healthy gut lining for proper absorption. Zinc deficiency alone can trigger excessive shedding and prevent new growth. Iron deficiency reduces oxygen delivery to follicles. Protein malabsorption weakens the hair shaft. You may be eating enough, but your body simply isn't getting it. Now let's talk about the liver, because this is where fructose becomes a major problem. Unlike glucose, fructose is processed almost entirely by the liver. When you consume high sugar fruits regularly, the liver becomes overwhelmed. Excess fructose is converted into fat, increasing liver stress and inflammation. A sluggish liver cannot perform its vital functions efficiently. One of the liver's key roles is hormone regulation. It helps break down and clear excess hormones from the bloodstream. When the liver is overloaded, hormones like estrogen and testosterone become imbalanced. This directly impacts levels of dihydrotestosterone, or DHT, a hormone strongly linked to hair follicle miniaturization. Elevated DHT shortens the hair growth cycle and shrinks follicles over time. This doesn't happen overnight. It happens gradually, silently, until one day you notice thinning, widening parts, or increased shedding. Many people blame age, but the root cause often lies in years of liver overload. The liver is also responsible for detoxification. It filters chemicals, toxins, and metabolic waste from the blood. When detoxification slows, toxins accumulate and create oxidative stress. Oxidative stress damages cells, including those in hair follicles. This leads to weaker, more fragile hair that breaks easily and grows slowly. Another overlooked role of the liver is nutrient storage and activation. The liver stores vitamins like A, D, and B12 and converts nutrients into usable forms. When liver function is compromised, nutrient availability drops. Even if intake is adequate, hair follicles suffer first because they are not essential for survival. High sugar fruit consumption also depletes minerals needed for liver detoxification, including magnesium and zinc. This creates a vicious cycle. Sugar stresses the liver, depletes minerals, weakens detoxification, increases inflammation, and further disrupts hair growth. Gut and liver health are deeply interconnected. A damaged gut sends inflammatory signals to the liver through the portal vein. A stressed liver sends inflammatory compounds back into circulation. This feedback loop amplifies systemic inflammation and accelerates hair thinning. Many people over 50 live in this state without realizing it. They feel mostly fine, yet their hair tells a different story. Hair is often the first visible sign that internal systems are struggling. When sugar intake, especially from sweet fruits, juices, and dried fruit, is reduced, gut bacteria begin to rebalance. Inflammation decreases, the gut lining heals, nutrient absorption improves. At the same time, the liver gets a break, fat accumulation decreases, hormone regulation improves, detoxification becomes more efficient. As these systems recover, something remarkable happens. Hair shedding slows, texture improves, growth becomes more consistent. This doesn't require extreme measures. It requires removing the constant sugar load that keeps the gut and liver under stress. Hair loss is not just a cosmetic issue, it's a metabolic signal. Your body is communicating that it cannot keep up with the internal burden placed on it. When you listen to that signal and support the gut and liver, you create the internal environment where hair can survive and grow. Healthy hair begins in the gut and the liver, not on the scalp restore these foundations, and you give your hair the best chance to stay strong, thick, and resilient well beyond 50. By the time most people reach their 50s, they've already tried something for their hair, a supplement, a shampoo, an oil, maybe even a procedure, and when the results are disappointing, they begin to believe that hair loss is inevitable. That belief is one of the biggest mistakes you can make, because while age changes the body, it does not eliminate your ability to protect and even revive your hair. What matters is how you work with your body instead of against it. The first shift must be mental. Hair loss after 50 is not punishment, and it's not destiny. It's feedback. Your body is telling you that it needs balance, especially when it comes to blood sugar, inflammation, and nutrient delivery. When you understand this, the solution becomes far less complicated than you've been led to believe. One of the most powerful steps you can take is reducing fruit quantity, not eliminating fruit entirely. Overconsumption is the problem. Your body no longer tolerates frequent sugar spikes the way it once did. One small serving of fruit per day is often more than enough. More than that keeps insulin elevated and inflammation active. Less sugar means calmer hormones, better circulation, and a more stable environment for hair follicles. Equally important is choosing the right fruits. Low sugar, nutrient-dense options provide antioxidants without overwhelming your metabolism. Berries in small portions help reduce oxidative stress. Avocado, though technically a fruit, supplies healthy fats that nourish the scalp and support hormone balance. Olives support circulation and reduce inflammation. These fruits work with your body instead of challenging it. Timing matters just as much as choice. Eating fruit alone, especially on an empty stomach, creates rapid blood sugar spikes. Pairing fruit with protein or healthy fat slows sugar absorption and protects your scalp from inflammatory surges. A few berries with yogurt, nuts, or seeds is far less damaging than fruit by itself. This simple adjustment can dramatically reduce shedding over time. Hydration is another overlooked factor. Hair follicles require fluid to function properly. High sugar intake dehydrates cells and thickens blood, reducing circulation. Drinking adequate water throughout the day improves blood flow to the scalp and supports nutrient transport. Dehydration silently weakens hair long before visible thinning appears. Protein intake becomes critical after 50. Hair is made of protein, and inadequate intake leads to fragile, slow-growing hair. Many people unknowingly undereat protein as they age. Prioritizing high-quality protein at each meal supports hair structure, strengthens follicles, and improves regrowth potential. Without protein, no amount of supplements can compensate. Minerals are equally essential. Zinc, iron, magnesium, and selenium all play roles in hair growth and follicle health. Stabilizing blood sugar helps preserve these minerals, while a nutrient-dense diet replenishes them. Excess sugar depletes minerals, balance restores them. Another key factor is circulation support. Gentle scalp massage improves blood flow, but its benefits multiply when internal inflammation is reduced. Walking daily, stretching, and light strength training improves systemic circulation, ensuring nutrients reach the scalp. Movement is medicine for hair as much as it is for joints and muscles. Stress management cannot be ignored. Chronic stress elevates cortisol, which disrupts hormones and pushes hair follicles into the shedding phase. Sugar worsens stress responses by destabilizing blood sugar. Reducing sugar intake stabilizes energy levels and calms the nervous system, indirectly supporting hair growth. Consistency is where most people fail. They try changes for a week or two and expect miracles. Hair grows slowly. Follicles need time to recover. Reduced shedding is often the first sign of improvement, followed by better texture and thickness. Regrowth may take months, but the foundation must be stable first. The body wants to heal. It always does. When you remove obstacles, excess sugar, inflammation, poor nutrient absorption, it responds. Hair follicles that were dormant are not always dead. Many are simply suppressed. Give them oxygen, nutrients, and hormonal balance, and they can reawaken. You do not need extreme diets. You do not need expensive treatments. You need awareness, restraint, and respect for your body's changing needs. Small, consistent choices create powerful long-term results. Hair health after 50 is not about fighting age. It's about supporting physiology. When you stabilize blood sugar, reduce inflammation, nourish the body, and improve circulation, you create the conditions where hair can survive and even thrive. Your hair is not gone because you're older. It's struggling because your body is overloaded. Lighten the load, restore balance, and you may be surprised by what your body is still capable of doing at any age.